Welcome to the OT Asset Management Weekly webinar, where we discuss various aspects and functions of OT Asset Management. And today we are getting back to vulnerability management. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share a tip with you how you can boost your vulnerability management performance. And the concept that I'm going to explain to you is performance-based remediation. What does that mean? So if you just think about how the prevailing school of thought, what they suggest how you should prioritize your mitigation, you will know, well, the answer is very simple. You base that on risk. The higher the risk, the more important and urgent is the mitigation. And maybe one well-known root of this school of thought was this presentation at the S4 conference a couple of years ago when Art Mannion introduced the idea, well, let's just forget about these priority ratings like high, medium, and low. Let's use instead a nomenclature which is based on now, next, and later. Very good idea, in my opinion, and you can see me sitting on the stage supporting this idea. But there is one catch with this idea, and the catch is that it assumes that you would actually be able to remediate your most critical vulnerabilities very, very quickly. And that is an unrealistic assumption. Why? Because every time when it comes to firmware updates, no matter if it's in automation devices or if it's in network gear, for example, you just can't, because it requires downtime. And show me the vulnerability that is so super critical that the asset owner would say, okay, Mr. OT security expert, go ahead. We shut the plant down for you so that you have enough time to update all your PLC firmware, as an example. That is not going to happen. So you would have to wait for the next scheduled downtime. In other words, the idea per se is certainly striking, that you schedule the remediation based on the risk level of that vulnerability, but it's impractical. And the other thing that's associated with this idea is that you would mostly have to care about new vulnerabilities that just drop down out of the cloud. So the researcher has found that new vulnerability in your Cisco switches. So it's critical. It's the sky is falling. And if you remember I think it was the first webinar that I did on vulnerability management, that is not a realistic assumption. So let me be very clear about this. If you structure your whole vulnerability mitigation efforts around the latest vulnerability, you're totally missing the point. Why is that? Because in OT, you have hundreds of thousands of vulnerabilities in the backlog. Yeah, that's the sad reality. And we can certainly display those rather easily in the OT vulnerability management software, and you may have seen that already in the previous webinar, where we have something like a vulnerability master table that shows all the vulnerabilities of our installed base, and it's in this sample database, it's roughly 700,000 vulnerabilities. That implies if you were actually able to remediate the latest and most critical vulnerability, and you have, I don't know, 20 instances of that, what did you achieve? You achieved next to nothing. So your whole vulnerability management strategy should be based on your backlog, on your massive backlog. It's not really so much it's not very useful if you only focus on the latest and greatest, which you could, because it's also in the events table in OTbase. But the backlog is what you really need to worry about. And with that backlog being so big, how do you tackle this? How will you be able to actually make a difference? And this is what we are talking about today. which I call performance-based remediation. And what does that mean? So just think about what you can remediate right away, where you don't need to wait for downtime. That's actually very simple. A lot of your vulnerabilities go back to certain Office software products that you could either update or deinstall without waiting for downtime. What would those software products be? Well, fortunately, OTbase shows us that right away. So if I go to the software tab, what you see here is a sorted list that ranks software products by the volume that they contribute to your attack surface, how they blow up their attack surface. This is the number right here in this column, V score. It's the vulnerability score, and it's for this software product all the CVSS base scores for all installations where it was discovered by OTbase discovery. Okay, and let's forget about Windows 7 here for a minute, because certainly you will most likely require downtime to upgrade from Windows 7 to a more recent operating system version. But there are other software products in here, such as Adobe Flash, very prominent example, where you will not need to wait for downtime to actually get rid of this piece of crap software that has no place in an OT environment. But today we're focusing on yet another software product that is notorious for vulnerabilities. Guess what? Google Chrome. We see it here, we see it there. Outdated Chrome versions. And they contribute a lot to our attack surface. And now the good news is we can fix that rather quickly. We can update our browsers just like that. So you see in the upper right corner here, my browser version, my Chrome version is not up to date, but I can update it rather quickly by just clicking that button. And so this gives you an idea where you can find some low-hanging fruits. So let's just take this one step further. Based on this table, we already got the idea, that Google Chrome probably is something that we should take care about, and we could do this right away. So let's go to our vulnerabilities table, and just to check, what we could do is in the description field, we filter for Chrome. And then the result set will be reduced to CVEs that include the term Chrome, in other terms, so where that are associated with Google Chrome. And guess what? That is almost 85,000 vulnerabilities. Wow, who had expected that? I could even do another check. Well, if I just think about vulnerabilities with known exploits, what would the ratio be? I just need to check this button. And then let's see the resulting number. Well, that's almost 3,000 vulnerabilities with known exploits. And look at those nasty values here. Attack vector via the network, so remotely exploitable. Attack complexity is low. So you get the idea. We are talking about a significant portion of your attack surface here. And why, if you're not convinced that yet, let me elaborate on that a little bit further. What is the present threat scenario that all of you should be worried about? That's very simple. It's ransomware. Your ransomware will not directly hit your PowerFlex drives, which also have vulnerabilities. But your ransomware will much more likely hit one of your desktop PCs, maybe using Google Chrome in an older version as the entry point. So In other words, this really gives us a lot of bang for the buck. Now, in OTbase, we can easily turn this into a remediation task, which I have done here already for you. So this is our list of remediation tasks, where we see once that we have, let me just show it to you how that works. So you pick a saved search from the vulnerabilities table. This is what you see here, this saved view, Chrome vulnerabilities with known exploits. And here you can schedule it, schedule for now, and we just say update. We just need to update the software. And this can be done right away. We don't need to wait for downtime. And yeah, we can start right away, and we can set an end date for this activity. Downtime required? No, that's the important thing. And then I could also add some comments, I could add files, etc. And I can assign it to individual users, okay? So once that I've done this, a double click will tell me everything about this remediation task. I can follow the progress. So far, there was no progress. But when I start to actually update the Chrome installations, you would see those graphs going down, hopefully down to 0. And if I scroll further down, you see my 3,000 vulnerabilities. Those are only those with the known exploits. If I update the Chrome versions, certainly also those other roughly 20,000 vulnerabilities will also vanish because they're also associated with older Chrome versions. And here is another very good news. It's only about 70 devices, and OTbase tells me right away what those devices are. Okay, so that means that's a very sizable activity. I will update 70 devices. I will just update the browsers. Maybe I can even do that remotely, and I get rid of roughly 20,000 vulnerabilities, of which 3,000 come with known exploits. So this is what I call performance-based vulnerability remediation. And why is that so super important? Because your risk concept sometimes misleads you. You're only focused, the criticality, the CVSS base score, it's 10. It's only we need to do something right away. Yeah, probably you should, but you can't. Whereas the performance-based approach looks on what you actually can do right now. And those activities, as I tried to show you, can make a big, big difference in your attack surface. They might even be they might even yield much more protection when you put it in the threat context, where it is clear, well, ransomware doesn't affect your power flexes, and certainly also not your IO cards, etc. Where you will find nasty vulnerabilities on those too, but they are probably not as they should not be as high on your list, because in a threat perspective, the likelihood that your Chrome vulnerabilities will be exploited is so much higher if we consider the general environment where ransomware prevails. And the other thing that I would like you to keep in mind is vulnerability management is a numbers game. And one target group that is totally aware of that is your top management. You need to demonstrate to top management how you bring those numbers down. Your number of vulnerable systems, your number of CVEs that you have gotten rid of. And this is an excellent opportunity to make it happen, because these notorious applications, the browsers, Adobe Flash, then Microsoft Office, outdated Microsoft Office versions. Guess what? You find those frequently in OT environments. If you're not sure where, well, OTbase will tell you right away. You get this table right away. You will see where you have outdated Microsoft Word versions, as an example, which are also prone to hundreds, if not thousands, of vulnerabilities. So, and by just remediating what you can right now, you have an excellent opportunity to demonstrate that in numbers, in charts to management, and at the same time also really reducing your attack surface. So this is what I suggest you to consider. Don't always focus on risk when it comes to remediation. Focus on performance, how you can really make a difference. And when you think about that, think about your backlog. Don't think about the latest, most pesky vulnerabilities that you would see in OTbase right here in this events table. Those are the latest CVEs, and I can even go down to the last 24 hours. Hey, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new CVEs. But if you put that into context of your backlog, I could argue, so what? All right, it really, it's not worthwhile always chasing the latest vulnerabilities if you want to make a difference. So if that resonates with you, I would invite you to check out our vulnerability management handbook that you can download from our website, where we have put together what we believe are the most important building blocks of a practical and sustainable vulnerability management strategy. So that's I think it's about 16, 17 pages, and you will get some good ideas that will hopefully help you making a difference in your environment. And with that's what I wanted to focus on in this webinar. Let's see if we have some questions. No, we don't. So we can end early today. I'm giving you back 12 minutes of your time. But let me also briefly look forward. We will continue to focus on vulnerability management because it's such an important topic. And maybe in the next webinar or at the latest in 2 weeks, we will focus more on the reporting side of it, because if you don't have solid reporting, you're not getting anywhere. You cannot simply assess the threat landscape, etc., by a gut feel. You must have numbers. You must have KPIs. This is what we're going to focus on anytime soon. Okay, still no comments. If something pops up, any questions that come up, just contact us via our webpage. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.